Welcome to How Women Inspire. Today, we are getting the deep dive conversation with entrepreneur Cathleen Turner. She is the founder of CZero. This is a groundbreaking venture crafting cutting edge software for 3PLs and logistic businesses with a strong emphasis on sustainability, making sure we're not having more climate impact when we grow and do this delivery. Kat's vision and her leadership has been instrumental in reshaping the landscape of the logistics industry. She's championing all kinds of eco-friendly solutions. And outside the boardroom, she seamlessly blends her passion for technology with a love for nature, finding solace in the outdoors and hiking, which is like woman after my own heart. It's so healing and refreshing. And I'm so excited to dive into your journey and really understand this intersection of innovation and environmental consciousness and the profound impact that CZero is making in the world of logistics. So get ready, everyone. We're going to have a great, insightful conversation with a trailblazer who's committed to bridging the gap between the business success, of course, we seek, but also environmental stewardship. I'm so honored to have you here, Kat. I'm so honored that the group of us are all part of How Women Invest have invested in you and your leadership as a founder. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk with you and talk with the community. And like one thing I'm really excited to talk about is how every business at whatever size, whether you're a solopreneur or you have thousands of employees, can start making the moves to go carbon neutral.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, I think everybody listening is going to be leaning into that. We have to figure out how we're going to create a different future. And the thing is, your solution is so brilliant. But before we get into all of that nerdiness, the things that you and I live for, let's talk about, like, you go hiking, but and love outside. But do you have, I don't know, do you go dancing, or do you have a favorite song that you listen to on those days when you need that extra boost or you want to celebrate?
Yeah, for sure. Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
classic, but you can't beat the classics.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I was that girl athlete, and I'm going to tell you that literally was, and I think every time you've got that, like, I'm lifting up a new thing, it's the perfect song. I love that. It makes me
Yeah,
happy.
it just really fires me up
Yeah.
and reminds me to like stay focused and keep at it no matter how hard things get.
Do you have a moment that maybe something that's been really challenging or that made you really proud, that when you sort of whipped out that song and just felt your power?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in terms of like more of my personal life than business, I started taking up running again. Yeah, I've been a runner in the past and focused on the business, took a break, now I'm back at it. And I just completed my first 5K in 5 years.
Hey,
High
congratulations.
five. Thanks. Yeah. And like, I really played that song in my head when I was pushing for the last mile. It was in LA, the tracks in LA, and there's a lot of hills, and just really digging deep into that, into myself, and just like really visualizing myself completing strong,
I love
which
it.
I use that same technique in like running the business and like pursuing different opportunities. Sometimes you just got to dig deep and
I've been
push.
watching you dig deep and run this marathon, and it's really impressive. So I love that you've got it balanced out with that. That makes me really happy to hear. All right, Kat. So one of the things that you talk about is this environmental stewardship and sustainability. Can you define for us, what does carbon neutral mean?
Yes. So all business activities produce carbon emissions. When you're a carbon neutral, you take account of these emissions and you have plans in place to reduce and then offset what can't be avoided so that your net impact is zero.
All right, there we go. So you heard that, all of you who are running your own companies or you're at your own companies, it's really important to look into what is the carbon impact and what are the strategies we can use to make it zero. Who should be thinking about this?
Every business today, whether you are a solopreneur running your e-commerce store through like Shopify, or even if you have a business where you're producing products, food products, or even if you're exclusively a software business, you should just be thinking about what are the steps that you could be going to CZero today. And this is the best time to do it. I know the economy is like very challenging right now. However, there's so many options that you have in terms of tools that they can use that they're free. Some of them you could pay for. And then also you have options to actually use physical technology if you are a business with actual goods and capital to be able to use less energy. So everyone, and I'm happy
So
to
everyone, it
think
doesn't
about.
matter how big or small you are.
Yep,
All right.
yep. It's even easier if you're a home-based business. So
Yeah. Will you walk us through the steps? Like, what should you think of first?
I break it down into 4 steps. So number one
Okay.
is an audit. It's always good to have a big view on like what you would categorize or like characterize your business as. A home-based business is very different from like a business that has a warehouse and things like that. So number one, audit. Number two, account. This is where you start to bring in a tool or software to actually estimate what your carbon impact is so that you have a black and white number that says like this is your level of impact. Number three, avoid and reduce. So
Okay.
basically, I advocate that first because not only is it more cost efficient, after all, we're all businesses here and we're trying to enhance our bottom line, but also these impacts are immediate. Avoidance is the best way to reduce your carbon impact. And then number four, offset. So once you have the team is rallied with a purpose, you have carbon accounting in place to actually hold you accountable for your carbon impact. You have reduction strategies and things in place. You offset what you cannot avoid because at the end of the day, all activities have a carbon impact and offsets help you mitigate that. So,
All right. So you just said, among other things, you said you get the team in place. I know, like, for my kids, and it really feels like this is a deal breaker. Like, I'm not going to go work at a company that isn't thinking about this. What are the messages and the audiences that really benefit? It's good for business because you're going to be able to hire and retain staff if you do this. Like, what are the other benefits of really getting clear?
yeah, absolutely. Number one thing is I'd say employee inspiration and retention and actually bringing in employees. One great thing about with my business, CZero, we're very upfront about what our purpose is. And this has actually been really great for holding and retaining, especially younger employees. So like those that have just come out of school or have been in the workforce a few years, like I feel like the younger generations are very motivated and proactive about how they could not only just change their personal lifestyle, like to be more
Yeah.
aligned with the
Yeah.
environment, but also their workplace. So I found that that is like the biggest impact in terms of not only just us as a business building out, making carbon neutral logistics simple for businesses, accessible for business, but also just like really building the team so that we're all inspired to work every day.
So, I mean, all of us finding and retaining great talent is absolutely paramount. What about customers? Are you finding that customers are really asking about this?
Yes, yes. So my customers are CPG businesses, warehouses, other logistics businesses. And this is the number one thing that they're asking about because their customers are asking about it. And the
Okay.
thing is that like we're in a really interesting point in time because the general consumer base has awareness, but there's a lot of information out there about what is being sustainable, what is like carbon neutral. And
Yeah.
so if you make a presence from the beginning, very clearly
Okay.
and show what your position is in that, customers will gravitate towards you. And it's even better if you have software in place that visualizes and shows what your impact is and how you're avoiding it.
So it's good for your employee engagement and retention. It's good for talking to your customers. All right. So if I go through and really look at everything I'm doing and I try to get as close as I can, but I need some kind of an offset, how does that even work? And are there other incentives out in the market for?
Absolutely. But I definitely want to go into talking about offsets and also in financial incentives to do this. And we could talk about that right now, but also I wanted to talk about a few other steps before we
Oh,
get there, if
yeah,
that's okay.
let's do it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there's like 4 steps. There's the audit, there's a carbon accounting, avoid and reduce, and then the offset. And the reason why I put offset last, and this is something that a lot of listeners are probably curious about because, we're really pushed to buy this. There's a lot of people, a lot of businesses are in new trying to sell you offsets. Well, I'm here to say that the number one thing you can do is actually avoid emissions. And it's like a little controversial because I'm very much like an anti-buy person. If you don't buy it, it's even better. And the thing is that we could, as businesses, look at things today and make a decision about what we're going to cut out and reduce. And that will make a much bigger and faster impact than purchasing an offset. And once I explain how they work, you'll see why. So when I mentioned about the step of self-audit, you're not going to hear this from anywhere else, but I highly recommend is actually going to your spend management platforms, your financial platforms, and look at your business expense categories. That is like the first thing you should do before any consideration of going carbon neutral. Why? Because it's actually where our money flows and how our expenditures are really tell us as a business where our impacts end up being. If you're a home-based business and maybe you do some travel, your biggest impact is probably your air travel, especially if you travel more than like 2-3 times a year. And if you're on the other side of the spectrum, you're a business with a warehouse and you have facilities, you have like lighting and heater, obviously your utility is going to come out as an expense. So this only takes 10 minutes. If anyone is listening today and they only have 10 minutes to start moving into carbon neutral, you don't even have to buy new software. Just go to your banking website and just look at your expense categories and then make a decision. Which variable expense can you cut out and reduce starting today? The ones I recommend are travel. So anything with air travel, ground transport, and around also e-commerce and ordering. So this may come up as like Amazon shipping, things like that. Make a decision on how you're going to cut your expenses then, and then stick to it. A lot of spend management tools, I use Brex. Some people may use other platforms out there. You could actually assign budgets to these categories and then assign it to people. And then there you go. First off, you should be doing this already. But if not, that's okay. No judgment here. And then second off, that actually allows you, by limiting the spend, actually limits the activity. So this audit helps you evaluate what kind of really categorizes your biggest carbon sources as a business. And then you could start thinking about how you're going to do reduction then. And then if you are working in a business and you're not the business leader, your biggest allies are probably the people in the financial services team. So your FinOps, financial officer, even your bookkeeper could like have them in your team for this like audit step.
Fantastic. Thank you. This is really important and super simplified, which I appreciate. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making the commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step. I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. How does CZero work? And who needs CZero?
Yes. So CZero is a really great tool for when you are seeking to have something that's embedded in place to help you reduce your carbon impact from the beginning. If you are a business that needs warehousing, fulfillment, or transportation. So when you think of like going carbon neutral as like swaths of color in a palette, CZero falls in the spectrum of reduction. And so we are not including counting of all of your operations. There are separate tools for that, and I have recommendations for those. But a great example is like, let's say you're an e-commerce business, you have goods in a warehouse and need fulfillment. With CZero, you can go onto our platform, find a warehouse location. Our locations are Miami, New York, and LA. Get fulfillment. And if you need transportation, like actually distributing your products to retailers, if you're at that level, or even coffee shops and bodegas, we have a network of drivers who are able to pick up your products and distribute to them. And
they're already on the road. So it's not like you're hiring someone who more carbon impact, right?
Exactly. I call this cargo share, and cargo sharing is a really great way for a business of any size to start reducing their carbon impact because one, we're here to really just eliminate empty miles on the road. 80% of actually a range of 60 to 80% of vehicles, commercial vehicles on the road are empty at any point in time because they're just returning back. So empty.
Sure.
So by doing cargo share, we're utilizing these vehicles to their capacity and you're still fulfilling the business needs. And then most importantly, because you're really paying per drop off, instead of paying someone a whole day, you actually save money on costs as well. A lot of couriers, if you don't have a driver, actually have minimum drop-offs and costs associated with working with.
So it's better for those drivers. It makes more money for them because they have more, they've got yet another revenue stream and it reduces the number of trucks and cars on the road. How did you even come up with this idea? And where did this come from, Kat?
Yeah, of course. So I actually started my business as a 3PL. So we're in
What's a 3PL?
So a third-party logistics provider. So, CZero, we started as a 3PL And it really just started with my customers just asking, can we have a drop off?
Yeah.
And then once they started referring other businesses that needed drop off, it became very clear that if we just combine the drop offs and routes together, we could not only save on cost for the customer, but we're also reducing our total miles, which reduces our emissions. This is not a new concept. Distributors do this as well, but we're just applying it in the way that lets you do it without a distributor.
Fantastic. So saves people money.
Yes,
So
and
like,
avoid
all
emissions.
right.
That's where we fall in the spectrum of
All right.
emissions avoidance.
Yeah.
So.
Your energy and your creativity and discipline is so beautiful to see. For you as a founder of a startup, how is it that you, I would say, like, think about your own place in the ecosystem? Are you trying to grow big and have a public offering? Like, what's your vision and why are you uniquely contributing beautifully to the whole ecosystem, like as a person?
Yeah, I would say my goal is global integration. Essentially, our logistics networks are all connected, whether it's through technology or through people. And what I've learned being in business, starting a 3PL and now evolving into being a software provider for 3PLs, is that through the connections of people and technology, we could really just pool resources together and just use them efficiently so that we have logistics capacity available at cost for businesses that need it. Businesses that provide logistics services, whether it's storage or transport, are using as much capacity as they need. And then finally, technology allows us to track and view what the impact is and minimize where possible. So in terms of what I bring as a person, I think of myself as an ordinary person. And I know this is not what you want to hear, like probably as my investor, because I think personally technology has the ability to take anyone who's ordinary into an extraordinary executor. And like that's a great software product. When you take any person with no knowledge on carbon impact, no knowledge on carbon reduction like strategies, and they could already become carbon neutral just in their e-commerce technology. So and I'm really passionate about using technology and helping people with technology and empowering them in that way. Nothing special about me. I'm just obsessed about like making everyone into Terminators, but in like terminating the carbon impact. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It's a sweet story, but you are quite extraordinary. And I love the vision that as you were talking, I'm like, wait, like warehouses aren't gonna have empty space, and that is a win for them because boy, is that expensive to have vacant space. The people who are transporting, the consumer product companies, everybody wins in this whole value chain that you're talking about. This literally reduces so much friction, even the staff time and the energy that goes into figuring out how to tackle some of the vacancies, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is that right now in the 3PL industry, there is a perceived scarcity of warehousing space. Like I've been doing research and there's these articles that say that there's less than 13% availability of warehouses for 3PLs.
Yeah.
And yet I'm talking with operators and they have like half of their warehouse available.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is that there are 3PL companies building spaces, and construction is actually one of the largest sources of carbon emissions besides all the other segments like transportation, massive source of carbon emissions, which could be completely avoided. You know what I mean? So we're doing really innovative things here, such as now a warehouse in Miami, which this is actually a possibility for them now through CZero, could actually tell their customers that they have fulfillment in Los Angeles by enabling 4PL logistics, which is letting warehouses, 3PL providers expand without building a new warehouse, without doing that investment. We're meshing everyone together through the shared technology.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We've all sort of gotten used to this shared cars and Airbnb, and it makes absolute sense. This is the next evolution, but I actually think this is a super brilliant innovation. Not really ordinary, but something like that together. Kat, for any woman who's thinking about starting their own company, any Latina that's thinking about starting their own company, what would you say are your biggest tips for people?
I would say the number one big tip is definitely take care of yourself. I have worked in, especially if you're Latina, I've worked in startups pretty much my entire career as a software engineer, then decided to start my own because I am addicted. And the number one thing is like people will take from you what you give. And I feel like when you're super ambitious and like me, I'm like, my mom came to Ecuador not speaking any English. And so I feel like a lot of Latinas, we like you're surrounded by a community and we feel like we need to put our mark into the world. And if we don't, mothers have come over here to sacrifice everything, their amazing life in Ecuador for you. At least that's what my mom says. But the thing is that if you just stick and work for years and years and not refill your own cup, you're just gonna really hurt yourself, and you're not actually operating at your maximum abilities either. Because at the end of the day, we're humans, we're flesh and bone. And so it's just so important for you to take care of yourself, sleeping, eating, building a community of support, vitamins. Oh my God, it's like the basics. But the thing is, once you have the systems in place, you have a system for your account billing management, put a system for your vitamins. Like, I'm serious, like do that. And I especially implore that for Latinas, because I feel that some of us have an added burden. Maybe we have a parent that's dependent on us. You know what I mean? That's a lot of like Latinas out there may have parents that they're sending money to their parents, sending money to their family. So that means you have to invest extra in yourself for that support.
Yeah, you're a great storyteller and paint a really great picture. For anybody who wants to find you, how do they find you, Kat?
Yes, you could send me an email at cat@czero.today. Just send me an email. And our website is czero.today.
Anything else that you want to make sure people know before we wrap up today?
Yeah, we didn't go into the credits and incentives, actually.
Yeah, let's talk about the like offsets, right? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So offsets are good. So offsets are different from credit incentives.
Okay.
Offsets are basically the ability to purchase something, invest in a project that is either doing carbon reduction or like carbon removal. And so an example of carbon removal is like a forestry project. Carbon reduction is something where capturing emissions in some way so that it's not releasing the environment. A great example of that are methane capture projects for landfills. Landfills use methane, and you could actually purchase carbon offsets so that you're investing in technologies and construction to capture this, so you're avoiding emissions in the first place. And the great thing with these kind of projects is that your effects, like the impact, is like within the scale of like months and like years, versus carbon capture projects, which are like forest projects, take years to actually get into that promised amount of carbon capture that they say. So that's really carbon offsets. Now, carbon incentives are a little bit different, which is definitely something I want to spend a little bit of time in. And basically, if you don't have any equipment, there are actually moves you could do now as a business within a few hours to actually change how you're using energy. So number one, you could opt into a commercial demand response program. So what does this mean? So utility companies charge at peak hours energy usage. So you could call your utility company or go to the website and opt into a commercial demand response program, which means that your specific account, you have told them that you won't be accessing peak energy or use most of your energy during their peak hours. So this allows them to not have to worry about giving you that energy. You're going to have it, but most importantly, you won't be charged for it. So you're actually going to get money back by not using that energy during their peak hours. And simple moves you could do as a business to do this: one, programming your thermostat; number two, programming your lights so that they're released at certain times. So that's like another thing. Number two, you could switch to green power and you could still pay the same utility bill. And so there's two options for this. You could opt into a utility green power product. So this is something where you contact your utility and ask if they have like green power products that you could opt into. And so they get their energy from some renewable sources. Number two, you could opt in a competitive green power product, which means that some states, and the states are California, Connecticut, Delaware, DC, and Illinois, you could pay the same utility, but your energy comes from competitive green products. So it's some other renewable source. You're getting that, you're paying for that, but you don't have to change your billing. You don't have to change anything. You're still paying the same utility provider, which is convenient. And then number three, and finally, upgrading your commercial equipment. So this is very important for the business listeners out there that have equipment. And so basically, I know all of us might have something that we're putting off. I'm personally putting off maybe doing some reporting, but for businesses that own things, maybe they're putting off something that they need to change, like their commercial water heater. And so there's actually incentives out there to actually help you transition into more energy efficient devices or technology so that you could use less energy. Number one recommendation I make to people: look into getting a commercial heat pump, water heater. You're able to reduce your energy usage. It does take a little bit of time because you have to find the right people to help you do that. But if you own a warehouse, you own a building, you are manufacturing something, investing in this now, you can not only get incentives from the government to be able to offset the cost of this, but some utility providers actually do provide rebates as well. And there's tax credits associated with it by state. So
big financial incentives for sure.
100%. And I actually have some friends at pencilenergy.com that could, if you're a business with facilities and you're looking for these tax incentives and also financial rebates, contact me and I could direct you to them. They could help you get connected so that you could start saving money.
You give me so much hope. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Kat, for being with us today. You certainly hit the inspire out of the park today. And I just can't wait for your vision to become a reality, really helping all the value chain get benefit, save money, reduce impact. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing.
Of course, you are so welcome. I've also wrote more into an article, which is available at community.czero.today/start, so that you're able to just read all that we talked about. And I actually link some websites, and I link a really great carbon accounting tool that's available for free called coolcalifornia.org. Very detailed, great for businesses, even if you have buildings. So
fantastic. So there's easy pathways. We'll all go look up all of the writing and the resources that you've put online. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.